What's up? What's up? Happy Monday. It's that time. We're going to raise this desk up just a little bit here. There we go. Hey, happy Monday, everybody. It's that Monday just chill stream. And we're going to record this one so we can continue building up free content for you all to just develop yourself and just be better leaders and be better aspiring leaders. If you're not quite in that leadership role yet, that's okay. That's okay. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. It's a couple of plugs before we jump in tonight. Next week, starting November 3rd, we're kicking off a brand new series. It's all about the leader inside of you. I won't give out too many hints. Too many hints. But our first session is really going to be focusing on you're already leading. You just don't know it yet. And that's our first session starting next Monday. It's going to be amazing over here on Twitch. You could also be able to catch us here on YouTube if you're watching this recording. But yes. Good morning or good evening for everybody. Not good morning. Goodness, it's been one of those long days. All right. I'm just going to let you know I'm recording this from home, which means I have dogs. I have kids. We even have one cat. So if we get interrupted, that's okay. We're just going to love life and we're going to live it to the fullest. Let's make this happen. I'm fired up. This is a topic we've talked about before, but I really wanted to hit it again. We're tackling something that keeps me up at night. Maybe it keeps you up at night. And this is probably one of those topics where we just don't want to face it. We don't want to admit that this is a problem or something that we're struggling with for whatever reason. Maybe it's pride. Maybe it's just, nervousness. Maybe we think it makes us less leaders, whatever. But here it is. It's all about your team ignoring you. Right? Not obviously, not rudely, right? But in those 1,000 subtle ways. There maybe you message them on Teams and it's days, hours, weeks, whatever to get back to you. I always love this one. I didn't see that email. And then all-time favorite, that glazed over the eyes look in meetings, right? The initiatives that somehow they never quite get traction, right? This is indication that the team is just ignoring you, right? And I know this because a few months back, I walked into a situation where this is exactly what was happening, right? And here's something that I want to push, right? I think about the leadership principles that we should be building on our foundation is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? And that's a good, all right, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But tonight, we're going to go deeper because caring is great. Caring for your people, caring about your people and what's happening in their lives, both personally and professionally, that's great. But caring isn't enough, right? So here's something I want you to think about. If you want to share, great. You can drop in the chat, drop in the comments, whatever. On a scale of 1 to 10, how well is your team actually listening to you right now? Right? A 1 to 10. 1, not at all. 10, boom. Everything I say, they're glued to me, right? 1 to 10, how well is your team actually listening? Here's the thing tonight. We're going to walk away with 3 different frameworks that you can implement right now. Not next quarter, not next year, not after your annual eval, not after some sort of big fancy 3-day retreat. I'm talking about tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, you can start implementing. Let's go. Let's dive in, okay? This section is called the 5 reasons your team tunes you out, okay? And we've come together and we've talked about this as Ignite, and we talked about the 5 reasons why your team's not listening, why they're tuning you out. And let me tell you what we found. So we went into a couple of different organizations, and we've seen over about 20 different directors, solid people, great people. Love chatting with them, their walks of life, learning about them and learning about where they came from, where they want to go, and what all that looks like. And it was just amazing, right? They were smart, they were experienced, they were absolutely fractured. Okay, and here's what we discovered. It wasn't them. It was the environment that had been created. Now let's take a look at the 5 reasons, right? The first one here is one of the things that we learned about was that the leaders were talking more than they listened. So here's the thing, and this is you, if your team's ignoring you, you talk more then you listen. We actually called this the broadcast problem, right? Real talk. Right? Think about this. Real talk. In your last team meeting, did you speak more than 50% of the time? Now be honest. Be honest. The problem here is that your team thinks you already have all the answers. So why would they engage? You've become a broadcaster, right? Not a leader. You're broadcasting information. You're talking more than you're listening. And we think about this, we think about the leadership lid. And if you haven't heard of the leadership lid, you absolutely should check this out. It's a John Maxwell talk on leadership, right? Your influence, which is what leadership is, can't rise above your willingness to hear or lead. So let's just say if your willingness to hear people out of a 10 scale is a 4, well, you're only going to be able to lead up to a 3, right? There's your lid. Your lid is boom, okay? You're a 4, you can only do a 3, okay? If you're a 6, you can lead up to a 5, right? And that's kind of how the leadership lid. So really, you as a leader, your job is to lift your lid, get your lid higher, right? And you do that through this kind of stuff right here, and of course, experience and practice and reflection, and we can go down that road another day. But here's the thing. Your team's struggling listening to you because you're just broadcasting information. They're not engaged, right? Now, here's the second reason why, what we have found of why teams ignore leaders. Your words don't match your actions. Now, we call this the credibility gap. Now, when we started observing this, we learned first couple sessions in, people were like, yeah, we've heard this stuff before, right? And what we ended up noticing was that one of the leaders was talking about, I can't remember exactly the topic, he was talking about making some changes, and they got the nods. Guy clicking his pen, all right? They've heard this before. That's the sound of broken promises. Now, what we noticed in different areas is that previous leaders had come in and told them that transparency matters, and then they made decisions behind closed doors. That's a perfect example. Transparency. But then they go behind closed doors. They go into these meetings with executive leaderships or other leaders, and they make all these decisions, and they don't share that. They don't share the why behind their decision making. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes there are moments in organizations where decisions need to be made quick, things like that. And I think there's good times to have those conversations. But at any time, if you're going to preach that you're transparent, you have an open door policy, you got to actually act on it at every opportunity. Another thing that we've seen when it comes down to your words not matching your actions, and I love this, innovation is key, right? Our success is on our innovation. And then when you sit in their meetings and you sit in these conversations, new ideas come up, shot down instantly or brushed under the rug, right? You can't say innovation is key and then shoot down every new idea without even giving it a shot, right? Yeah, absolutely. Not knowing the why causes employees to lose trust in leadership 100%. If you're curious more about why and sharing your why, start with why, right? It's an excellent idea of sharing your why. I will tell you that every misalignment between what you as a leader say and what you actually do costs you huge. And I'm not talking money. I'm not talking dollar signs here. I'm talking something worth more than money, especially in organizations. And I know we're focused on our bottom lines, but this costs you trust. And I will tell you right now, trust is the currency of leadership. 100%. It is the currency of leadership. It costs you trust when your words and your actions don't match. Now, the third thing is that we've noticed is that leaders tend to solve more than empower. We like to call this the hero complex, right? And this one hurts because I'm guilty of it too. I'm a problem solver. Ask my wife, ask anybody. I will solve a problem quick. I will step in and be like, I got you. Solve. Boom. And I walk away and I'm like, I helped you out. Yeah, we good. But ouch, I didn't empower that person. When someone brings you the problem as a leader, boom, you solve it. Hey, you're fast, you're smart, you're helpful. You want to make sure you take care of your people, right? You're experienced. here's the thing you're doing, and I hate saying this, you're also training them to be dependent. Leaders become great not because of their power, but because of their ability to empower others. I want to say that part again. You don't become great because of your power. And we see leaders today get in power and they think they become some sort of great person. And they're like, I've got the title, I've got the position, I've got the power. No, leaders do not become great because of their power. They become great because of their ability to empower others. Every time you solve their problem, here's what you're telling them. Ready? You're kind of whispering it quietly in the back of their head. You're whispering, you're not capable. That's what you're telling them. When you come in and you solve a problem, maybe they need a soundboard. Maybe they just need somebody to read something. Maybe they just need, a different perspective, not a solution, a different perspective. Or maybe they just need to hear, hey, you got this. I trust you. But if you solve it instantly, you're just telling them you're not capable. They won't work to fix the issue next time because they either know the leadership will or they never got taught to do it themselves. Absolutely. Why am I going to spend all this extra time fixing and solving this problem that, of course, would generate buy-in with me and my peers when I just give it to my boss and he'll fix it? Don't worry. Absolutely. The fourth mistake we have found when teams are ignoring their leaders is this. You're inconsistent. We call this the ping pong effect. Okay, and here's what this looks like. On Monday, you roll in, 8 a.m. meeting. You're like, all right, we need to move fast, break things. Let's go. Let's do it. Thursday, here's the thing. What happens? Why wasn't this reviewed by 7 people? And I stutter when I say it because just the thought, and I've seen this happen, is Monday, it's like, hey, out the door. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And then Thursday, it broke. It didn't work. Something happened. We see this in tech. You see it in software where it's like, skip testing, roll it out. Thursday, it's broken. People are upset. Why wasn't this reviewed by 7 people? What did we do wrong? Well, you're inconsistent, right? Your team isn't ignoring you. They're confused. They're waiting to see which version of you shows up. Are you the person who's going to follow through and follow the processes and just hold off and be, and be consistent? Because even if you come in on Monday and say, hey, we need to move fast and break things, great. Come Thursday, instead of saying, why wasn't this reviewed by 7 people? You say, wow, we moved really fast and that created some issues. We need to fix those. Or maybe we should slow down. Instead of pushing that blame off on everybody else. Like, why wasn't this reviewed? You know why it wasn't reviewed. You told them to hurry, right? So it's not that they're not listening. They're confused. And when that kind of happens, it costs you, in this case, it could cost you money. But again, it costs that trust that they don't know which version of you as a leader is going to show up that day. And which version of you as a leader is going to have their back if something doesn't go right. Especially if they're following what you said. Okay? Inconsistency. And here is the 5th one that we've noticed is you haven't earned permission. You haven't earned permission. I know this sounds really bad, right? But this is the authority versus influence mistake. Okay? Here I'm going to drop the truth right now. Your title makes them comply. You control their paycheck. You control whether or not they can put food on the table, right? Your title makes them comply. Your character makes them commit, right? You can walk in day 1. I'm the boss. I demand respect. You get compliance. Most of it. You might get 1 or 2 that are like, I'm not doing that, right? You get compliance out of most, if not all, your team. But you never get their hearts. You never get that discretionary effort. You never get innovation, right? You never get that. Recently ran into something similar. I heard they don't want anyone maintaining or doing keep lights on work. Yeah, absolutely. Only innovation. Yeah. But then it's like, okay, so you spend your time innovating, and it's like, wait a minute, the system is struggling and it's failing, and people are upset. Why is nobody maintaining or doing the keep the lights on work? Because you said you only wanted us to focus on innovation, so we all switched our brains to innovation, right? Yes, exactly. Things are gonna break all over. Inconsistency, and I'm sure you tell me if I'm wrong. Leadership was like, well, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we maintaining? Well, because you said innovate, not to touch that stuff. I don't know what you want me to do. What version of the leadership is showing up that day? That's hard, and it makes us as as individuals, not as followers or leaders, but it just makes us as people be like, why? I'll just wait. I'll just wait and see how this plays out. Not ignoring, confused. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, we've talked a little bit about these 5 mistakes, and maybe one resonated with you. Maybe you're like, ooh, that's me. Maybe 2. Maybe all 5. That's okay. That's okay. I can tell you right now. Absolutely. Number 3, solving instead of empower, that hero complex. That's me 100%. Right? We talked about this. Now let's talk about fixing it. We've built a framework to help follow along with it. Now, as previous military, acronyms are my favorite thing. All right, and I know the world is filled with them. Acronyms really help us remember. So what we did here at Ignite is we built the LISTEN framework. LISTEN framework. And this is how you fix this. This is how you work. Now, it's not a fix overnight. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and be like, yeah, everybody's going to listen to me now. Boom, 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 boom. And then tomorrow afternoon, it's over, right? No, listen, it's going to take a little bit of time, right? But I'm going to give you 6 actions, right? And when I give you these 6 actions, I really want you to pick 3, okay? Because you can't do them all. We at Ignite believe that we work on one thing at a time. And I'm going to ask you to pick 3. And this is what you're going to do first thing tomorrow morning, all right? Let's talk about the first one, right? L, leverage vulnerability. Leverage vulnerability. Once we started working with some of these organizations, here's what we started noticing. 2nd, 3rd week in, they called an all-hands meeting, and here's what they say. I don't have all the answers. I'm going to make some mistakes, and I need you to tell me when I do. Now, they're not going to say it just like that. But when we start talking about, hey, as leaders, I don't have all the answers, and I'm going to screw stuff up, and I need you to tell me when that happens, the room will go silent. When we say that, silence is going to happen because leaders don't say that. I hope that you've been in an organization where leaders say this, where they say this stuff, where they talk about this. And after you put that out there and the room is silent, here's what I want you to follow up with. Something like this. Here's what I do know. I'm committed to you. I'm committed to listening, and I'm committed to building something together that we're proud of. Now, of course, you don't have to say it exactly like that, right? But here's what I want you to do. I want you to connect with them. I want you to be committed to them, not to the end product, not to, I'm committed to you getting 40 hours a week, or I'm committed to make sure you're getting overtime, or I'm committed to you. Now, here's what happens when you say that. That means you're connecting to them one-on-one, even in a room full of 500. Because you're telling them, I'm committed to what you need to be successful here, and I want to build something together that we can be proud of. And we've seen this happen. You know what happens when we see this? People come up to leaders after that, and they talk about how they've gone through leadership changes before. This isn't their first time, right? And we've heard people tell new directors, new leaders, new executive leaders, new managers, supervisors, whatever that title is, hey, that's the first time I've heard a leader actually say they didn't know everything. Right? So here's what I want you to do. If this is what you want, this is one of your choices. If you're like, all right, I'm giving you 6, so you're gonna want to pick 3. This is yours. I want you to connect with one person on your team, and I want you to tell them something like, hey, I'm working on being a better leader. What's one thing I can do differently that would make your work life better? And then zip it. Don't say anything after that. Don't defend. Don't explain. Just listen. Just listen. Okay? That's leveraging vulnerability. That's how you're going to connect with your people. The I, invite input before decisions. Now, I understand, as I'm saying this, there are moments in time in organizations or in teams where decisions need to be made that you can't invite input. I honestly believe that is a very, very, very slim fraction of time. That is not the majority. So here's what I challenge you to do. Invite input before decisions. Now, I've been in a leadership role, and this is something I've messed up on initially, right? I went into this leadership role week 3. I made this whole decision about restructuring an entire team, right? And it was really going to be beneficial. It was a super smart decision. It was the right decision. But here's what happened. Nobody bought in. And here's the thing. I didn't invite them into the process. I didn't invite them at all. I just was like, here's what we're going to do. Boom, here's the structure. We're going to knock this out. Boom, boom, boom. Let's make this happen. I learned a valuable lesson right there. People support what they create. And when I rolled in and I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to restructure this entire thing. I robbed them of their ownership. Absolutely. Took it right out from them. Candy from a baby. Boom. Gone. Here's the fix. A simple, here's what I'm thinking. What am I missing? Here's what I'm thinking. What am I missing? Not what do you think? That's too vague. Not here's the decision, because that's too late. What am I missing invites them to make it better. Now, this happens even at the top of an organization. Most recently, I stepped into a situation where I needed to rethink the values and the mission and vision of an entire almost, we'll call it its own department. And I could have rolled in and I could have sat down, I could have looked at things and picked the values and picked this and picked that and wrote it all out and sent it out and said, this is it. This is what we're doing. But I didn't. What I did was I picked up a couple values and I said, hey, does this sound like us? Does this sound like if somebody walked in the door, is this something that we want them to see? Then after we got some input, we picked our values. And then I said, all right, here's how this lines up with a mission and a vision. And when people come in, is this what we want them to be able to know that our mission is? And here's how we want to grow in our vision. And then people gave input. And then what I did is I took it to a bigger group and a bigger audience. And I said, all right, here's what we're thinking. What are we missing? So here's what I want you to do. If this is you tomorrow, before you have any big decisions, right? I want you to meet with 2 to 3 key people. And I want you to say, here's what I'm thinking. What am I missing? And then take notes. And then make some adjustments if necessary. And when all that is said and done, give them a credit when you announce it. That's big. That's big. Give them the shout out. Everything rises and falls on leadership. When the team rises, you rise. When the team falls, you fall. Give them credit when you announce it. Now, S in our model, our third one is, this is going to be a tough one. Stop the performance review model. Now, before you're like, I'm not throwing out annual reviews. Are you crazy? We need those. I get it. That's a traditional model. I see you once a year. I tell you everything you did wrong in January. And December, you're shocked. I'm uncomfortable. Nobody wins. Right? Here's what I want you to focus on. This is a new model, right? And we see this kind of going around. Real-time feedback. Real-time feedback. Here's an idea you can do. Start 2-minute check-ins. 2-minute check-ins. I currently work with a team where they have 1 day a week where everybody's on deck and they're doing their thing, and I walk through every room and I check in with every person. 2 minutes. And I ask them questions. I ask them how things are going. Do they need anything? What are they missing? What are their thoughts? I start asking some of those open-ended questions. Sometimes I stop and I watch for a minute. And I might end up saying, hey, you did a really good job because of here. I want you to keep doing that. Also, I noticed this. Let's work on that. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. It's specific. It's balanced. It's real time. It's not, oh, I told you to do something in January and now it's December and you're shocked. What happens when you start doing that is I start trusting feedback. Because it's not just some annual event that they have to fill out 14 pages and then hopefully everything goes well and I still have a job, right? This also is growth mindset focused. So if this is you, this is what you want to do. I want you to focus on 2 people on your team. Give them that specific feedback. And it looks like this. When you did X, it resulted in Y. Let's do more of that. When you did X, it resulted in Y. More of that. Now, T in here is I want you to tell stories, not strategies. This is my strength. I love telling stories because nobody remembers the Q4 strategic priorities. Nobody. I've been down that road and been like, all right, Bueller. Oh gosh, no. They remember the story about the customer whose life you changed, the story about the team that failed, and then they learned and they came back stronger. The story about why we do what we do. That's what they remember. That's what they remember. And I've learned this in my journey and my studies and my watching and helping. People don't follow mission statements. It's a great guide, but they don't follow mission statements. They follow people who inspire them. Mission statements are great and they look great on paper, but if they're not inspired to follow that mission, they follow the people who inspire them. I do love storytelling because it inspires people. It helps you trigger the memory. It helps you have an emotional response. When you think about brain-based science, it helps. It also helps us connect. We always want to start with a story, right? I don't know, something like a customer service rep who went wildly off script to help a customer in crisis. Make those people the hero when you tell it. It does. Storytelling creates connection. I'm telling you, storytelling is where you go. You can get your strategy in there. Let's use an example, right? You start with your all hands meeting or whatever you call them, and you talk about, let's use a customer service rep. If you say, hey, a customer service rep went off script and helped this customer who was struggling in crisis. And you tell the story, you make that person the hero, and then you know what you tell everybody? You say, initiative matters more than compliance. That's our strategy. We want you to take initiative and not just comply. Now, people are going to remember, oh, yeah, I remember that story about that, and we really want to have initiative over compliance. Absolutely. So during your next team meeting, I want you to start with a story. We always like to start our team meetings with good things or wins. We love that. We get to hear the stories that are going around. It makes people the hero. And when you make someone else the hero, watch what happens. Watch what starts happening on your team when people get to share these wins with customers or with people in the organization or just whatever they're identifying as a win. You learn more about what they see as winning, and you also get that opportunity to let them be a hero right there in your meeting. It's amazing. Now, here's the thing. The next one is establish rituals, not rules. Here's the truth. Rules create compliance. Rituals create culture. That's a huge piece. Because here's the thing, and we're not doing a culture session, but I'm going to give you a little taste of culture. If you're not intentionally creating your culture is creating itself. Rules create compliance. Rituals create culture. If you have a company with 300 rules, seriously, that's way too much. You got pages and pages of policies about when you can spend what and who approves vacation. And create rituals. Every Friday we talk about the wins of the week, right? Everyone shares one win. In an organization I'm working with now, every Monday morning shares wins of the week. And here's the thing. Our Monday morning sessions, if the person who leads those is on vacation or is sick and somebody else fills in for them, you know what we do? We share the wins of the week, even that person not there, because it's a ritual. It creates culture. Every month, celebrate failure. We share what didn't work and what you learned. Like work on that. That's a culture. You want to have a culture that celebrates failure because it's a learning experience, then to have it out in the open. Try this. Every quarter, as a leader, I want you to have lunch with a random group of 8 people on your staff. Or if you work in an organization with volunteers, have a lunch with just random 8. Right? Rituals create connection. Rules create distance. 100%. So this is you. I want you to create one new ritual for your team this week. It could be as simple as starting every meeting with, what's one good thing from your weekend? Do it consistently. And watch people start connecting. And another time, we started doing these icebreaker questions every team meeting. And I was on a team where we met every other week because we had so much going on, and just the way that our team was built and structured, we didn't always meet every week. Not my decision. I wasn't the lead on that team, but it worked. But every time we got together, we would have some sort of silly icebreaker question. And what we started learning is that Paul really enjoyed classic rock music. And so when we started having meetings outside of our team meeting, we connected in passing, we would start sharing and connecting about different things that we were picking up on each other in those team meetings. Favorite foods, favorite drinks, favorite types of music, what not to put on pizza, right? I don't know how many of you talk about pineapple versus not pineapple, but you start building a pineapple versus not pineapple alliance, and it really kind of changes things in office politics to a little more fun and lighthearted, where people are connecting over something so silly as in, do we put fruit on pizza or do we not put fruit on pizza? And it really helps people connect. Rituals create connection. Rules create distance. So if this is you, I want you to work on creating those rituals. Let's drop that E in. You see what I'm talking about? You mean serial killers versus non-serial killers? Absolutely. It builds connection, and you really start seeing the difference in people, and it's beautiful to watch as a leader on that team. Watch people connect, because even when you think about it, when the hard conversations come between teammates, between peers, between leader and peer, or leader and follower, you really see a difference, and it's beautiful. But it takes intention, creates that culture, right? Pineapple pizza is the black sheep of pizzas. I would agree. Now the last one here, before we get going too much on pineapple versus not pineapple, I want you to name their brilliance. Name their brilliance. I call this the secret weapon. Okay? Most leaders point out problems. We find them. We see them. That's one of our gifts as leaders that we really start looking for, is we look at problems and we're like, all right, that's a problem. That's a hole. I call it the holes in the ship, where I'm trying to plug all the different holes, right? But here's what turned me from a good leader to a great leader, is I started naming the brilliance. I started pointing out people's potential and helping them rise to that potential, right? I once worked with a I would say he was like a mid-level manager, right? And I could definitely tell that he was phoning it in. He was disengaged, doing the minimum just to get that paycheck and keep his boss off his tail, right? And I could have worked with him and been like, hey, you know that this is a performance problem, right? You know that when your boss catches on, you're gonna get hammered. You're gonna get fired. But instead, I approached it differently. I approached this person and I just said, "Hey, I've been watching, because that's my job, right? I've been watching you. I've been seeing how you're doing, watching how you engage with your work and with the people around you." And then I named something specific. I told him, I said, "You have this ability to read room dynamics that many people don't see. Have you ever thought about taking on more of a people development role?" That's what I did. Instead of coming in and talking about how his lack of caring is could get him fired, or at least not get the raise or the promotion, right? I caught on something that I noticed, a strength that he does. His whole face changed in this conversation because nobody had ever seen him before. And I'm not seeing like, oh, I see him from it. No, I mean seeing him, seeing this potential. They just focused on the tasks that he wasn't doing instead of the tasks that he could be doing. Now, I noticed that after a few weeks after I did that, he started leading in a more of an emerging leaders program, and he was on fire. He was on fire in that role. Here's something that I've learned from this. People need to be reminded more than they need to be instructed. And this is one of the reasons why here at Ignite, we are talking about you're already leading. Because, yes, we can learn new skills, but you need to be reminded more than you need to be instructed. Remind people that they're brilliant. Remind people that they're brilliant. Here's what I want to do. If this is the one that you pick, identify one person on your team who's struggling or they're just disengaged. And we know who they are. You can probably name at least one right now. And if you're not a leader, you're an aspiring leader, but you're on a team, you're like, oh yeah, that's Clyde. Okay. And if you can't name anybody, you either have one of two options. One, you're on a stellar team and hook me up. I want to be on that team. Or two, it might be you. I want you to find that one person on your team who's struggling or is disengaged, and I want you to find their brilliance. I want you to name their brilliance, and then I want you to ask them to lean into it. And sometimes when you ask them to lean into it, sometimes that means they may leave your team, or they may leave your organization, and that's okay. Help them develop, and here's something that I've always thought of. When somebody leaves your team or your organization on a good note, what do you think they say at the next employment or the next time they walk in? Or maybe they cross paths with somebody who wants to work for your team or wants to get in your organization. Do you want them to say good things or do you want them to say not so good things? And I'm not saying that this will happen, right? That not everybody leaves, but ask people to lean into that. Ask them to find their brilliance. You find it, help them lean into that, help them be successful. And that's our end. And there's our 6. Now, real talk time, just you and me in the chat. You and me chat, here we go. Some of you are watching this or listening to this and you're like, this sounds great. This sounds great on paper. But my team is so far gone, but can them all and start over. The trust is broken. The damage is done. I get it. I've been there. I get it, and I've been there. Because I've been there first month. I've had people actively working against me, subtly, even recently, undermining decisions, protecting their turf. Here's something I've learned. You can't change yesterday. But you can change tomorrow starting today. I've had people who couldn't even look at me in meetings, right? They just scrolled on their laptop. They were on their phone. Super disrespectful. I could have pulled rank. I could have had, this is unacceptable. I could have had that conversation. But instead I connected with that person. Just the two of us. And I started talking to them. And I have asked questions about, hey, I sense you're not thrilled. I'm here. Like, you don't seem excited that I took this role or that I got the position. And I want to understand why. And you'd be surprised of what people say. When I've asked that question before, people have unloaded. They talk about broken promises, promised promotions, right? And then somebody else gets it. Or maybe that they were supposed to get this role that you got into. Man, that's hard. And when I've been in that position, I found out that most of the time the people aren't disrespecting me personally. They're protecting themselves from whatever hurt they're trying to heal from on that team. That's a big change. You can't fix what happens as a leader, even if it was you or if it was somebody else. It doesn't matter. You can't fix what happened, but you can control what you do now. And when you have these conversations with people, I want you to share your commitment. Tell them that you'll tell the truth and you'll advocate and transparency isn't. And if you can't do something, you'll tell why. And see what happens with these people that you're struggling with. I've been there. And a different approach. It's a different approach. But man, it builds connection. So here's my challenge to you tonight. That person on your team who's the most resistant, we all have one, if not more. They're not your enemy. They're your biggest unlock. Because if you can reach them, you can reach anyone. Stop trying to win the argument and start trying to win the person. I want to remind you of that again. Stop trying to win the argument and start trying to win the person. And who's that person for you? Identify them. Don't put their names in the comments. Don't put it in the chat. But I want you to think about them right now. What would change if you approach them with curiosity instead of frustration? If you approach them with curiosity of what's driving their decision, what's driving their thinking, their perspective, instead of being frustrated with it, what magic could happen? And as we approach the finish line, I need you to do something with me right now. I want you to make a commitment, not to me, to yourself, and to your team, right? And here's a commitment I've made before. And I want to write this down because I want to share it with you. And every place I go, I commit to becoming the leader my team deserves, not just the leader my title says I am. I commit to listening more than I talk, to empowering more than I solve, to being consistent, to being vulnerable, and to being present. And this is what I want you to do. Starting tomorrow, I commit to blank. Because leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. Your title didn't make you a leader. Your character, your consistency, and your care, that makes you a leader. And the beautiful thing, you can start building that tonight. You don't have to wait for a strategy meeting. You don't got to wait for anything. You can build that tonight. Pick 3 things from our listen framework. Write them down, schedule them in your calendar, and make it happen. Your team isn't ignoring you because they're bad people. They're protecting themselves, or they're confused, or they're waiting to see if you're different. Show them you are. Not with words, with actions. Starting tonight. Now here's what I want you to do. I want you to listen and think about this at Ignite. We believe that leadership is more than strategy. I've been big on that. Big on that. It's about people. Leadership is about people. We can't say that enough. And we partner with leadership to spark influence, to unite teams, and to create cultures that last. Because here's the thing. When leaders grow, organizations and teams, they flourish. And that's what we're here for. Now, if you're like, oh my gosh, I can't remember all this stuff from the framework, check it out. You can always get our framework from our website at our Where to Start page. If you scroll down just a little bit, you can download our listen framework. You don't even have to sign up or get spammed with stuff. You can absolutely download that for free. If you would like to get more information, more updates from us, please join our inner circle. We will absolutely send you updates on any kind of activities we got going on, courses that we offer. If you're curious about having a little more one-on-one time, please reach out. We will absolutely connect with you. No charge. Reach out, connect, let's talk, let's see what you're working with, and see how we can help you spark influence, unite your team, or create a culture that isn't just hype. Because when hype happens, hype ends. And then what's left? We're all about creating culture that lasts. So let us know. Reach out. Nah, we don't hear from you. Great. We'll see you next stream, next video. And you guys have a fantastic night. Oh, okay. Hold on. We got a question. Hold on. Would love to see some content up. Oh, okay. We're almost done. This is off topic, but would love to see some content on managing up. Say if you aren't a leader, the role. That's absolutely a great topic. I'll put some stuff together. I've got a few kind of things leading up. It's an interesting topic. You can lead up or you can lead from your seat, and that's really kind of a whole separate topic that we can absolutely put some stuff together on, that would be really, really good. We can absolutely do that. That's a great topic. We'll make that happen. Next time on Night, managing up. That's a possibility. We have our Monday series coming up starting next Monday, but our Thursdays aren't going to be the series. So maybe we just do some off topics like managing up. That's an absolute great idea. Absolute great idea. If there's anything else that you'd like to see, anything else you're struggling with, please don't hesitate to ask those questions. Ask those questions because we can absolutely make that happen. Okay, y'all. There's nothing else. Enjoy your Monday. Enjoy your week. Pick your 3 from your listen. And have a fantastic week. We'll see you on Thursday.